Math 1. An Introduction to Assessment and Grading. Our integrated math sequence consists of 4 overarching math competencies that are assessed over the entirety of the 3-year math sequence. Math 1 consists of 8 modules or units over the course of the entire school year that address the 4 competencies shown here. Each competency consists of 2 or 3 proficiency indicators upon which students are assessed and receive a score. While the competencies and performance indicators do not change over the 3-year math sequence, the level of complexity increases each year as the students go deeper into the mathematical concepts taught in each course. Let's take a deeper look at what students will be working with in Math 1. Competency 1 states, students will be able to create symbolic and visual representations to model situations in order to solve problems. Proficiency Indicator 1A assesses if a student can create symbolic representations to model mathematical situations. For example, this is the ability to construct a linear function in the form y equals mx plus b. A student who demonstrates proficiency for Performance Indicator 1A can consistently create accurate symbolic representations given multiple contexts. The student in this case would earn a score of 3. Proficiency Indicator 1B assesses if a student can create visual and numerical representations to model mathematical situations. For example, this is the ability to graph the linear function y equals mx plus b. A student who approaches proficiency for Performance Indicator 1b can consistently create accurate visual and numerical representations within limited contexts. The student in this case would earn a score of 2. These ratings are based on the language of the rubric and a holistic judgment of multiple problems and/or questions on the assessment that are aligned to these specific performance indicators. It is important to note that the students will be living with these descriptive rubrics. Teachers will be referring to these rubrics weekly, if not daily, so students continually understand what is expected of them and where they are in their learning progression. You should always feel free to discuss these rubrics with your child and reach out to your child's teacher with questions. Rubrics like this exist for each of the 4 competencies. Now let's look at how student performance on each proficiency indicator translates to a score for each competency. A significant difference in our competency-based grading model is that on any given assessment, a student will receive a score for each proficiency indicator the assessment addresses. For example, if a test assesses proficiency indicators 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B, then a student will receive multiple scores on the test so he or she understands their exact level of performance in each area of the assessment. In our example, after taking Test 1, the student receives the following scores on proficiency indicators 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B: a 2, a 2, a 3, and a 2. These are the scores you will see in Infinite Campus, indicating the student is performing at the level of approaching proficiency on proficiency indicators 1A, 1B, and 2B, and the student is at the level of demonstrating proficiency on proficiency indicator 2A. Now let's fill in a few more scores to fill out a marking period, such as the first quarter. Our student has now taken 4 assessments during quarter 1, and you can see his combination of scores on each proficiency indicator. A decision matrix is then used to determine the student's score on the competency. The decision matrix is based on a bimodal system, so the proficiency indicator score is determined using a combination of first and second most common scores. So in this case, for proficiency indicator 1A, the student's most common score is a 3 and second most common score is a 2, indicating that overall the student has a score of 3 on proficiency indicator 1A. Using the decision matrix, I will fill in the rest of the scores for this student. Now let's look at how a competency score and final grade are determined. Let's fill in the student's proficiency indicator grades for the year as determined in our bimodal system. To arrive at a score for each competency, we then average the scores of the proficiency indicators together. To arrive at a final score for the course, we then average the scores of the 4 competencies together. In this case, the student's final score would be a 3.2. So what does that mean in terms of a letter grade? When determining a letter for this student, the following grading chart indicates how a numerical value is converted into a letter grade. In this case, the student's average of his 4 competency grades was a 3.175, which is rounded to a 3.2. A 3.2 is a B. Now that you understand how a grade is determined, let's take a look at what you will see in Infinite Campus. Once you log into Infinite Campus, click on Grades on the left-hand menu. Select Math 1 and you can expand the course information using the plus and minus sign. On this screen, you can see the competencies and the proficiency indicators that nest into the competency listed beneath. Also, you can see the in-progress score for the student for the entire course, each competency, and each proficiency indicator. As you can see, in-progress grades can be seen to the right of each competency and performance indicator. The semester grade will be blank until the teacher posts the grade at the end of the semester. Because a competency-based system provides the entire year for the student to achieve standards at the highest level, the semester grade is a in-progress grade. The final grade the student achieves will be the grade arrived at over the course of the entire year and will be the only grade that appears on the transcript. To see how students have performed on each assessment related to the competencies and proficiency indicators, click on the arrow to the right of the score. When you open up a proficiency indicator, you can see formative and summative assessments that have been given with each of their scores. In a competency-based system, formative assessments are practice and are meant to provide information to the student, teacher, and parent about the student's progression through the course and readiness to take the summative assessment. Teachers use this information to provide the right amount of support to each student to ensure he or she is prepared to perform at or above proficiency on the summative assessment. Formative scores do not factor into the score for the proficiency indicator or competency. In a competency-based system, only summative scores are used to determine a course grade. You can click into each assessment, in this example, summative 15, and see the scores for a student on each proficiency indicator for each assessment. So as you can see, assessing a student in this way provides significantly more information than using traditional grading models. In addition to the feedback the student receives on the assessment, both student and parent can see what areas are strengths and what areas need attention. This is the end of this presentation, and we hope you found it helpful. If you have further questions about the grading practices in Math 1, please contact your child's teacher or the mathematics department chair for the building your child attends.